So I'm going to repeat some of the things I said, many of the things I said in the talk we gave earlier. So if you were there, sorry about the repetition, but I think it's really important message for people in China, which is why I'm here. I'm an inventor. I invented TV Gone, and it is just a keychain that turns TVs off in public places. That is all it is. A co-founder of Noisebridge, a hackerspace in San Francisco, and organizer of a Hackers in Residence program, which is going on right now. I have organized a group of hackers from hackerspaces from around the world to come to China to share our enthusiasm for our creative process and hopefully have it be contagious, because China, I think it's inevitable, as Bunny says, that it's going to go up that curve and be even way more cool than it is now. But it can use just a little help, just culturally. But one thing I think is really critical is thinking about what each of us, what you are passionate about, what excites you, and hopefully do as much of what you love as possible and maybe even make a living from it. I make a living from that weird keychain I showed you, TV Be Gone, which only turns TVs off in public places. I didn't make it to make money. I made it because I wanted one. I really wanted one. I hate TV. And they were popping up in public places everywhere, and I couldn't do anything about it. I could get rid of it at home, but I couldn't get rid of it in public, but I could turn them off. So I did, and I do. And it turned out my friends all wanted one. And that makes sense because they're my friends. And it turned out my friends' friends almost all wanted one, and that kind of makes sense too. But when it turned out that the friends of my friends' friends wanted them, that's when I saw an opportunity from a project that I did just because I loved it. And it's a weird project, but I've sold 500,000 of them. And it's the only way I've made money since 2004. And these things can happen if you explore and then do what you love. Not that it's necessarily easy, but these things are very rewarding if you can do that. And I think for everyone, if they give themselves a chance to explore and then do what they love, it's possible that other people will love it too. Probable that other people will love it too, because you're not the only weirdo in the universe. If you love something, you come from a culture, the people in your culture are probably going to love it too. And if you do, and other people love it, then they'll pay you to do it. That's capitalism. China does capitalism better than anywhere, as far as I can tell. And if that happens, then everyone benefits. Not only you, the person doing what you love, but the people who buy your thing because they love it. And if you need help, you hire people and it grows. I think China really needs this. Right now, China has a lot of things going in its economy. One of the main games is a lot of manufacturers manufacturing products for Western corporations. And then they ship it halfway around the world, where Westerners use it. Some people make some money doing this, but it's not necessarily good for China in the long term. In China, I'm talking vague generalities when I'm talking culture, but that's true anywhere in the world. But here, money and status are primary goals for so many people, maybe even more than in the United States, and that's saying a lot. Creativity and innovation are channeled into making Western goods cheaper and better, and maybe copying them and make them super cheap. But right now, we're seeing Chinese wages going up, as they should be, as the economy gets better. But we're also seeing shipping getting more expensive because energy continues to get more expensive. The exchange rates continue to go in the wrong direction for this game of Western goods being manufactured here to be continuing for a long time to come. It'll still work for a while, but we're also seeing the economies of the West kind of decline. It's going up and down. It's good for some people who speculate, but not really good for a whole lot more. And the next time, China is not going to bail out the United States and Bank of America. So how much longer can this last? I don't know. but it's not going to last forever. But this is an opportunity now for China. If some percentage, not everyone, but some percentage of Chinese people explore and then do what they love, they will create goods and services that are perfect for the local cultures that they are a part of. It's perfect for where it's created in, which is China, rather than for markets halfway around the planet. And if this happens, then local economy grows and flourishes. The future of economy, according to all economists who are popular now, is creative economy. And with all of the resources available in China, again, if some percentage of people explore their creativity and do what they love, then there are people in China. There's 1 billion people here. Some percentage of them is a lot, and that can support a huge market of whatever these things are, and we don't even know what they are yet. Chinese economy can really take off. So this is good for the individuals again, it's good for Chinese people, and if it's good for China, which is 1/7 of the planet, it's good for the planet. I would love to see this happen. But for this to happen, for it to be more possible, some changes have to be encouraged in Chinese culture. After centuries of Confucianism, which didn't just come out of nowhere, it's been in Chinese culture a long time, but Confucianism really institutionalized that you are born into knowing what you should do, what you will do, your responsibilities, your obligations. This has pluses and minuses, as with all aspects of culture. Right now, as I said, there's a focus on money and status. That kind of keeps people from trying new things that might not succeed. Confucianism and knowing what you are born to do, your obligations and responsibilities, also tend to keep people from trying new things. Fear of failing is a difficult thing to deal with anywhere in the world, but it seems to be particularly more shameful here in China than even in the United States or Europe. And it's strong everywhere, but it seems to be stronger here, and that keeps people here, many people, from trying anything because they might not be really good at it. And if people don't try anything because they might be really good at it, they'll never get really good at anything, except for what they spend a lot of time with. And for people who make it into good universities, they spend a lot of time getting really good at taking tests, where they will do really well on the tests, so they'll get into some high status, high paying position, where they'll push paper the rest of their lives. This is an option. Fortunately, there are other options. There's also social pressures here due to family and the education system. Again, these are pluses and minuses, but the minus is that it keeps people doing what they're supposed to do according to whatever they've embodied in themselves of what they think society says. Not enough people here are exploring and doing what they're passionate about, what they're excited about, what they love. And this is keeping things back for now. There's not enough people creating goods and services that are good for China. There's not enough people living lives they really feel are incredibly worthwhile anywhere in the world, including here. But if lots of people here are ready to just make these few shifts, they can start exploring through their creativity. And it's contagious. It's contagious because it feels great, it's fulfilling, it's meaningful, it's also profitable. This is the perfect place for this to happen right now. There's so many great manufacturers here. There's really terrible ones as well, but there's so many good ones right now that are good to their people, their employees, that pay them well, that have high quality. There's all these parts and resources, electronic parts, mechanical parts, you name it, parts, tools. All these things are made in China, they're available here, they're cheap, and they're ready for people to use for things that are good for people here. There are also hackerspaces here. Not as many as in the rest of the world yet. In the rest of the world, there's almost 1,400 active and forming, and the more growing all the time. In China, there's 7. These are places, physical places with supportive community for people to explore and do what they love, and hopefully make a living from it. Right here in Shanghai, there's Shinchajian. There's Beijing Makerspace. There's also Chai Huo in Shenzhen, co-founded by Eric. And there's one in Guangzhou and Hangzhou, and there's many more forming in China. Look them up. They're fantastic resources. They're great learning centers. But education, like I said, is all about tests right now, not only in China but elsewhere. But in China, it's all about theory and tests and not hands-on. And this is why I did the Hackers in Residence program, to hack education. Hacking is taking what exists, whatever it all is, we can make use of it, improve it, and then share it. That's what I want to do to education here, and that's why a bunch of us are here to share our enthusiasm for our creative process, our skills, and hopefully it'll be contagious. It's now an ongoing program that's having a kickoff on November 1st at Tsinghua University in Beijing. And it's going to continue and hopefully spread throughout China and hopefully become a self-sustaining program, not for outsiders from all over the world to come and stay for a while and share what they know and what they're passionate about, but for enough Chinese people to start doing this and sharing their enthusiasm for what they do with others. And this can be real education, where people are learning what they need to learn to live the lives they really want to live. So that's why I'm here on this trip to China, as well as to visit my manufacturer, which is one of the ones that treats their people well and has high quality and pays their people well. And I've been doing this in China since 2003. China is full of people ready to make all sorts of cool things. It's also a place where there's huge manufacturers. These aren't mutually exclusive. These are resources that play together to bring China to its future.
In 2010, the Shanghai government announced to support the funding for 100 hackerspaces as so-called innovation houses in Shanghai. And many of you might have heard about this. I'm curious to hear from all of you, what does it mean if the government supports a movement, like they make a movement that is usually thought of, as many of you articulated, as bottom-up, grassroots?
There's no easy answer to that. All the hackerspaces in the world are unique. They were all started by individuals or small groups of people because they wanted a hackerspace. They wanted a place where they could hang out a lot, a place with supportive community that felt really good to them. And this takes different forms at different places. The reason it works is because they're unique and perfect for that group of people that started it and that keep it going. If a government goes about it the wrong way, and what I'll call the wrong way, they can set up a bunch of centers, each exactly the same, each with the same tools, each with the same procedures, the same bureaucracy, and they don't even ask anyone involved who they think might be involved what they want. Then there's a whole bunch of these really amazingly cool looking spaces that are totally underutilized at best. And we've seen this happen at some Fab Labs where it's a centralized thing from MIT. They're really cool, but many of them are way underutilized because they didn't really ask the places where they put them, the people who will use them. And this is what I kind of am somewhat trepidatious about when I think of governments supporting hackerspaces. The 100 hackerspaces proposed in 2010 in Shanghai have not materialized. And I have just been way peripherally involved with this, but I know one of the people who was supposed to help make it happen, one of the co-founders of Shinchaxian Hackerspace here, and she ended up not helping because it just didn't feel right to her. So not knowing the people involved otherwise, I can't really say, but it seems like it was going about it from the way I call doing it wrong. What I'm hoping for the Hackers in Residence program is that hackerspaces will appear in Chinese universities, starting with Tsinghua, and elsewhere, but where the people who will use it, the students, are part of the process of creating the space. And if they create the space for what they want from it, where they can explore and do what it is that each of these individuals love, that's a great starting point. And then more people will be attracted to it because they fit in with that culture, which strengthens the culture, which attracts more people. But as the faces change through the months or semesters and years, it'll evolve. And I think that can work. I think that can work really well, which is why I'm putting my energy into it. We'll see.
Thank you. Building on these thoughts, so the Chinese government is not alone in supporting the Maker movement. We've seen this with governments elsewhere, particularly also the US, but also prominent figures in the media and cultures industry, like Chris Anderson, for example, have argued that makers and the Maker movement is the next generation of innovators, and you guys have spoken to that as well. And part of that idea is that the Maker movement is also spearheading a new industrial revolution, and this is particularly how Chris Anderson in his book frames the impact of maker practice and the global maker culture. So if we take this provocation seriously, that making and maker practice is a revolutionary activity, what exactly do you think is revolutionary about it? Do you believe that there is a revolution underway? And where are we in this stage of revolutionary change right now?
So I just wanted to add, revolution is kind of a charged word. It's good for media attention maybe, but revolution quite often means overthrowing violently. And I don't see the maker, hacker, whatever to call it, movement as overthrowing anything. Things are changing quickly now, maybe faster than ever before in recorded history. A lot of the old ways of doing things, the old paradigms, aren't working so well for maybe a majority of people, maybe a vast majority of people on the planet. You mentioned IP, that's a huge thing that's changing quickly. There's no way to keep people from copying anymore. And Shanghai is just one form of copying, and the record industry is trying desperately to hold on to the older paradigm of them being centralized, controlling force for distribution of sound recording. It's over. I mean, it's totally over. But they're going to keep onto it for every last second that they can. There are so many other things that are changing now, and with intellectual property, there's forces at work in the United States, in Congress, who are paid to be there by corporations for their own profit and nothing else, and they pay for these people's re-election campaigns, and they're just spending 70% of their time, that's what the studies all show, clamoring for re-election money, and so they're doing whatever they can to give more seconds to the old paradigms through new intellectual property laws. Many of them I see as catastrophic to the future of well-being of people in my country, the United States. And if other countries follow suit, the world. But there's many new paradigms that are beginning to be explored right now. And at hackerspaces around the world, there's a lot of creativity being put into this. I don't know where it all goes, but we're living to see it. It's kind of exciting to be part of this. As we see that the old paradigm, okay, well, let me just go, I'm an inventor, right? So the old way of inventing is, I invented this cool thing. It's mine. Stay away from it. It's mine. If you get closer, I'm gonna sue you. That worked kind of for some definition of working because it made a bunch of people a bunch of money for a long period of time. It probably still will, so people are fighting to keep that. But the new paradigm is more of where we came from as a species on the planet, which is sharing. It didn't make any sense in eons ago to be in a tribe or a clan and say, that new tool that I made, it's mine, stay away. Of course we wanted to share it with everyone in our tribe and our clan. And that went on for so long, it's pretty much part of our DNA. We all know how to share. I think we would share even without being taught this at a young age, because it makes sense and it feels good to share, regardless of culture. Culture has a big say in things, but at hackerspaces around the world, and here at Maker Carnival and many other places, we see people purposely setting out to create a culture of sharing. This is what open source is really all about. And by sharing, it doesn't mean that you give everything away to the detriment of yourself. It means giving everything away to the betterment of yourself and those around you. And it works. It really works. We have everyone sitting here, with the exception of maybe one person, who does only open source projects. We give all of our intellectual property away for free. And I didn't say that to put you down, I'm sorry if that came out wrong. But you know, here's some examples of people who we make a living giving stuff away. There's people in this audience who do the same thing. It works. The more you give away, the more people know about the cool things you do, and the more people will support you. It's really amazing. And when you have a hackerspace, a physical place where people are coming to share in the sharing, it's kind of magical what grows from all of that. And so I see this as being a lot of change happening right now at a very fast pace. And so for that definition of the word revolution, yeah, a revolution is happening. But there's no centralized force that's overthrowing something to put something new in place. There's a lot of people with a lot of different motivations, and we'll see how it plays out. But to me, it all looks very positive.
Yesterday at the panel in the afternoon on the future now and the role of science fiction in DIY maker communities, Paul Dorish put us this provocation that DIY making and the DIY maker movement could actually be a quite conservative endeavor in terms of repeating existing systems of power and relationships, thinking about who actually gets to participate and hang out in a makerspace or in a hackerspace. It's very often people who come from a fairly privileged background. And so I'm curious to hear what you have to say about this provocation that perhaps maker practice isn't that revolutionary after all, so the flip side of the conversation we just had, but perhaps a conservative undertaking.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and that's part of why I'm not comfortable with the term revolution also. It just, I don't know, I'm a media whore, so I know how media works, and we can use media to our advantage to get word out for cool things that people can join in. So yeah, to that extent, it's great to hype it up a bit, but yeah, revolution or not, conservative or not, what gets me passionate about the whole thing is that more people can have opportunities to live lives they think are incredibly worthwhile. That's it, Distribution of wealth, resources, all these other things can play into all that. But when it comes down to it, it's not about those things. Those things can be tools. Those things can maybe even be necessary, but we all want to live lives we really want to live. And unfortunately, we live on a planet where that isn't the case. Can we help get to the point where more people have more opportunities? I don't think we're ever going to be on a planet of utopia where everyone's living a life that is totally awesome. But maybe we can help some other people around us to live a life that they like a bit more. And that can spread. And it starts with people of privilege, of course, because these are people who have the luxury of having time to think about things other than just making a living, barely getting by, if they're lucky enough to do that in some places in the world. And hackerspaces, though, quite often way more often than not, are trying to make themselves welcoming to everybody. At Noisebridge, it's not just rich white guys. It's not just middle class white guys. It's not just guys, males. Either at Noisebridge, it's probably 40% female. It would be great if we were, closer to the population of San Francisco, which is 53% female. It would be great if we were closer to the population of San Francisco, which is some significant percentage of Hispanic people. But we don't live in a world where everyone has equal opportunity. But at each hackerspace, at each community that we create, people can have equal opportunity, and maybe that can help shift the culture immediately around us. We can start with ourselves and grow from there. And it seems to be growing quite rapidly. Noisebridge, there's boys and girls, and there's even transsexuals. Everyone's feeling welcome in that range of things. There's rich people, not too many, but there are. There's people who are homeless. There's a whole bunch of middle-class people and poor people. But many homeless people have stopped being homeless because they had Noisebridge as a resource to draw from. They didn't even know what they were going to do, but they found something they loved to do. And it turned out that they could sell those on the sidewalk because other people loved it enough to give them money to buy it. Enough so a few people actually got apartments. This isn't a revolution just in and of itself, but if that becomes a pattern, social change happens in a big way. I like pushing for that as much as I can, and that drives me to do what I do. If enough people do that in their own way, who knows what'll happen.
We open it up, since Mitch, you brought it up, and I think Bunny as well. And I'm the only woman here in the panel. Where are the women in the maker movement? And I think Noisebridge might be a little bit of an exception here with like 40%. But yeah, I'll just leave you guys.
A big part that we live in a world where men have political power and women don't so much. And boys do certain things as defined by the gender roles of our cultures, and girls do other things as defined by the gender roles of our cultures. And there's a lot of cultural inertia as a result of these gender roles. So we don't live in a world where everyone has the same opportunities, as I said earlier. But one of the reasons why Noisebridge has, not quite the same as the general population of San Francisco, but higher than a lot of other hackerspaces, is because when we started Noisebridge, we wanted it to be welcoming to everyone, and we made concerted effort to make sure that we were welcoming and let it be known that we're welcoming. One of the things we did right from the start was took things which were traditionally girl things and made sure that we had them at Noisebridge, like sewing machines and various forms of craft. Not that only girls do craft and sewing. There's nothing about a human brain that's female that says that only they are allowed to push fabric through a sewing machine. Just like there's nothing about a human brain that says only boys can hold a soldering iron. But it's all open. So we have soldering going on at the same time that we have sewing going on. And people sewing see the soldering and they go, well, that looks fun, maybe I'll try it. And people soldering see sewing going on and they go, wow, that looks fun, maybe I'll try it. The people cooking are seeing both of these things going on, and maybe they try incorporating that, and then we see some LEDs and cake frosting. And then we have a darkroom for film, and someone starts sewing film together to get some pretty interesting results. Blurring the boundaries not only of gender but also of genre and fields of so-called expertise. We don't have to be bound by these categories. We can hack them, taking the resources, manipulating them so we make them cooler and sharing it. That's hacking. We can do that with everything. Jimmy sitting here, he's told me it's at one point at Artisans Asylum, which he helped co-found, they had at one point 50-50 boys, girls.
We're back to it.
Back to it. Yeah. So, yeah, these things are definitely possible. But we live in a world where there's a lot of cultural inertia, but if we, just make a little bit of concerted effort, maybe it can grow. And, and like right now, I just want to point out, sort of separate from all this, we have 1,400 or so hackerspaces existing or forming in the planet. That's a great resource, but that's not enough. We have 7 billion on the people, and there's not enough room for 7 billion people at these 1,400 or so hackerspaces, and growing however quickly now. But if it continues to go up exponentially, maybe we'll have 1 million hackerspaces at one point, and all of them unique, all of them good for the people who started them and keep them going in their unique locale. Then maybe we'll see some real social change for the better. I hope so.